Hello, welcome to this video. When I was a youngster, I can remember a documentary, well, more accurately, a rockumentary came out, and it was called The Decline and Fall oh, God. Let's have a bit of coffee. Let's oil the old rictus. You know you're in for a stupid video, don't you? You know you are. Last week there I was putting out very serious videos discussing AI, talking to philosophers, trying to reach out to bands to give them some advice how to, negotiate their way through this modern music business, if there is one. And I got no views. So here I am back doing something that you all love. And that is a silly video where I criticise everything in the world. I have positioned myself next to the window. So throughout this video, I can be the old man that as a cloud passes by, I will shake my fist at the cloud. Oh, you rubbish cloud. Clouds are better when I was young. So when I was young, I remember vaguely, and I never watched it, but there was a rockumentary that was called The Decline and Fall of Western Civilization, and it covered the sort of nihilist punk scene in America, if I'm right. I've never seen it. I had no interest in it. But in the mid to late 80s, when I was interested in heavy metal and all that type of stuff, you had Decline and Fall of Western Civilization Part 2, the heavy metal years, which I did watch, and it was very enjoyable. And this was looking at the sort of nihilist sort of aspects of heavy metal, some of the stupidity, some of the silliness, and you got that guy. Was it the guy from Wasp or Rats? One of them sat in the pool off his head with his mom watching. Do you remember it? And Ozzy Osbourne, with the shakes in his kitchen. I can't even remember that very well. But the whole point is that documentary. I thought, wouldn't it be great to do that now? And what would be the difference? So this is one's going to be called The Decline and Fall of Western Civilization, the Spotify years. And I am going to go through 10 modern artists that represent reprehensible cultural stuff, which is a sign that our Western civilization has come to its ultimate end. That all the glories, the past glories, culturally, scientifically, all the incredible achievements that we've had, and now winding down to nothing as evidenced by the contemporary music scene. This is what we're going to be doing on here. So I've got 10 categories and a band to represent each category, and I'm going to rank it from 10 to 1, getting to the worst one right at the top. Now, I haven't come up with a good title. I love it. I would love to call it The Decline and Fall of Western Civilization, the Spotify years. But there's a ranking video in here as well, and people love a ranking video. And the ranking video is doing two things at once. It's not only ranking really cruddy artists, but it's also it's ranking these genres that I've created. So shall we just start at number 10, see where we go? Right, am I in the mood for this? Am I ready to go on this one? Because I know I'm going to get very ranty on this one. Very ranty. And all you old folks who, appreciate a bit of Yes or Miles Davis, good music, you're going to be able to get angry. Along with me, it's going to be so much fun. Let's have a get ready to get angry. Right. At number 10, we have... And this is the classification. At number 10, we have a classification called They Just Won't Go Away. Now, what this is artists that sold lots and lots of records in the old days, and they're now very old, and they're still going. And they're either not as good as they were, or they've fallen into a sort of self-perpetuating narcissistic cycle, or they are just... pulling at the very embers of their fan base, where once they were playing arenas, they're now turning up and playing to 200 people, trying to squeeze the last bit of juice out of their life. Somebody who has been defined by who they are in the public eye and cannot let it go. Someone who spent their life on tour So they never really developed a proper family life. They never saw the seasons go round. They were always just out there, hotel room, car, gig, back to hotel room. And they did that their whole life. And now they're like, like one of those tigers in a cage too small that just walks round and round. They're like that, and they got to go out. Even if it's only 50 people, they've got to be there. They've got to feel the love. They're addicted to the love. Robert Palmer would be doing it right now, but he's dead, so he can't do it. But there's so many artists that are doing it. Now, the one that personifies all of this for me is Madonna. Now, I think everybody in the Western world of any age knows that Madonna should stop. She should stop doing everything. She should stay at home and do what old ladies do. She should get up in the morning, maybe have a little glass of wine just to ease the, whatever. Sit down, watch a bit of Pointless Women. Is that what it's called? Pointless Women? It's not, is it? Loose Women. Freudian slip. Right. I'm enjoying myself already. I hope you're enjoying yourself. I'm enjoying myself. Yeah. Madonna. I mean, what does she look like? What is she doing? And she's putting out these cruddy videos where she pretends to be a sexualized cat and she drinks, I mean, how old is she now? 80 years old. I mean, she looks awful. When she goes out, she writhes around in front of an audience and it's not right. The whole thing's horrible. She can't sing anymore. She couldn't sing anyway. Yeah, she's got a whole bunch of hit records behind her. And what is everyone doing? They're all paying tickets that are far too expensive to see an artist that is well past their sell-by date so that they can photograph themselves and go, I've gone to watch Madonna, living legend, right? Everybody's doing it. That's what's going on. They should all stop, like Logan's Run. We should have Logan's Run for, artists from the 1980s, the 1990s, and even the 1970s. Logan's Run, when they get to a certain point, they have to go off and go up in the air, and they get sent off to, rock heaven. And we don't have to put up with them, trying to draw the last bit of juice out of their careers. So that's what I've got at number 10. With easy one. It's only at number 10. I don't think it's that bad. There's a lot of artists that I would like to go and see. Good old Paul McCartney, there he is. Doing a gig and he's getting out there. All the songs have dropped down about a fifth because he can't hit the notes anymore. But that doesn't matter because he's singing some Beatles songs. Tickets are like 250 quid. You've got to remortgage the house if you want to go and stop in a hotel as well. And I don't begrudge him doing it. Do you begrudge him doing it? If he stopped, would the world be a worse place? Well, no. They wouldn't, would it? Then they start arguing, don't they? This is the other bit I love. They start arguing, don't they, about who owns the name. This is my name. No, it's my name. No, it's my name because I'm the main guitarist in it. But I'm the singer and everyone knows me. But you didn't write the songs. I wrote all the songs. And what about me as a drummer? What about me? I actually came up with a name. So technically it's my name. No, you can't have it. Well, I'm going to call it like, what's going on. I mean, and around here, I'll tell you something. Birmingham bands, not to name any, Slade and ELO, it's like the whole band has been carved up and now nobody can do anything, with those bands. And I mentioned that, that I do know some of the guys out of that band. So I am reporting something that's the case, Wouldn't it be good if all the surviving members of ELO could get back together? Bev Bevan on drums, Jeff Lim up front, Kelly Grocutt's died, but my mate is his son, so they could get my mate Robin to do that. I mean, he looks a bit like him. He plays the bass, he can sing, so you get Robin on bass. That would be good, and Rob would make a ton of money then. And then, because I've said it on this YouTube video, I'll be able to take some credit for it, and then I could sort of draw some of the money out of Rob that he will have made. But no, instead, we've got the last ever Jeff Lynne gig at Hyde Park coming up, and then that will be that. But at least Jeff Lynne is bowing out gracefully. You can only spend so many decades encased in hair as he has. I mean, he's got the big beard. That's got to be white now, but it still looks the original colour. He's got the hair, and then he's got the dark glasses, And of course, when he stops, he goes home, he'll have to take those glasses off. He'll be like that, and he'll have to acclimatise himself like some, cave dwelling creature, but instead of being encased in stone, he's encased in hair. Right, shall we move on? That was that one done. Right, so at number 9, I have a category called pretend screamy metal. Right? I love heavy metal. What has happened to it? Bunch of fashion models, right, jumping up and down to music that was created by a computer and going like that, which when Napalm Death did it 40 years ago was an affront and a shock to us all. But now it just sounds like the sort of middle-class teenage version of the Eurovision Song Contest to me. I can't stand it. These typewriter drums tapping away in the background that no drummer was involved in the making of. You know, the same guitar sound slung so low, the same old cliches, the same old video with all the rubbish in it. Now, the band I'm going to put forward, because there's so many of them, so I just Googled screamy metal. And the band that came up was a band called Suicide Solution. And I looked at their video and they got 120 million views on it. I thought, well, they've got to be known. I've never heard of Suicide Solution. But the fact that they're called Suicide Solution just describes the crassness of a music industry on its arse that has become so old and out of date that it just churns out the cliche of trying to sell music to depressed middle-class teenagers that are upset that they live in a nice house with their parents who are very nice and sit there groaning upstairs, and then trying to upset them in the only way they can, which is putting on some computerized tosh that outside their bedroom sounds like this. So their parents go, oh, what's happened to young Johnny? He was such a nice lad when he was young, and now he's become a teenager. He's become all bad and he's listening to screamy music. He's full of angst and nihilism. What's going to happen to him when he gets older? I'll tell you what is going to happen to him. He's going to grow out of it, and then he's going to go, Daddy, can I now have a job? And you'll get him a nice job. And in a few years' time, he will be doing exactly the same thing with his offspring sat upstairs in his bedroom in their 10-bedroom house. You know, putting on an even more computerized version of... God, this one's going well, isn't it? Right, shall we move on to number 3? So number 3, so these ones I don't mind so much. I don't mind Madonna, really. I don't even mind Suicide Solution. At least there's a few nice guitar solos in there. But this keeps getting more and more annoying as we go up. So at number 8, we have middle-aged working class heroes, right? These are guys that are around about my age, maybe a little bit younger, but they didn't like what I liked. They didn't like Yes and ELP and all that. They were too cool. But back in those early 80s, they were too cool. And you know what band they liked? They liked The Clash. There's a whole host of them out there, all my age. Here we have a thing in the UK called BBC Introducing. And on BBC Introducing, if you're a band, you can go record a demo and send it out to BBC Introducing, and they will play it on the radio. And so many incredible artists have been launched in that way. The only Achilles heel with BBC Introducing is... right, well, the biggest Achilles heel is the BBC didn't believe value such a wonderful thing, and they decided to bloody, take it out of their hands, because they've got so much better things to spend their license fee on. Because here in the UK, it's a little bit like we have this TV channel called the BBC. We all love it and we treasure it. And we all pay. You can't have a television unless you've paid a license. And then you won't have a license. Yeah, I know it's ridiculous. You have to have a license to own a television, right? In America, you don't even need a license to own a gun. We have to have a license here to own a television, right? And if you don't pay it, they'll send you to prison. They sent 3,500 people or something like that to prison last year because of not paying their license fee. To prison! Right? But we all pay, we have to pay it. And what does it get spent on? I don't know, probably sticking some orange people in the house so they can cop off with each other while we watch it. That type of nonsense. All sort of the camp extravaganza that we get on a Saturday night, called Strictly Come Dancing, which is, it's not so bad now because Toy Wilcox is on it. So every now and then you can spot Robert Fripp in the audience. But, and I got no problem with campness. It's just tiresome. right? It's so tiresome. That's what I look at it and go, God, I don't even watch the BBC, but I have to spend my license fee on it. I have to spend the license fee to have this, and then BBC introducing it, which was, I'll tell you what, I don't mind. Radio 4, late Radio 3, BBC introducing. I'm quite happy to pay it if those things aren't tampered with. So I love BBC introducing. But the problem with it is when you put the radio show on, what they play are people who can afford to go into a decent studio and record a decent demo. And you know who that is? It's middle-aged men who's got reasonable jobs, right? And they're of a certain age where their favourite band in the early 80s was The Clash. Now, sometimes some of these bands who are middle-aged and love The Clash or whatever it is, sometimes they love the Specials, but it's something around there. You've been a UB40, and it's that working class angst. It's like the working class hero thing, as though that even though it's become so passé and out of date, you know, and there's nothing worse than a middle-aged bloke jumping around trying to be edgy. But there's a whole genre of it. Now, here in the UK, it's personified probably best by Sleaford Mods. Now, Sleaford Mods are sort of like Mods, but they don't seem to be really a band. There's two of these guys, and the one guy swears a lot and jumps around, usually in sort of an urban decayed place. And I got to be honest, I quite like the music. I don't mind Sleaford Mods musically, but there is something about watching a man of that age, you know, living it out his dreams of still thinking he's edgy, right? And I'm sure if he's watching this, he'll get very angry now that another even older man, middle-aged man that likes jazz fusion and prog has poked some fun at it, right? You know, and because I was always an anathema to that. I know exactly. I grew up with them at school. I'm an anathema to these people. They can't stick me, right? Because I didn't toe the line. I'm such a contrarian. In the 1980s, when everybody was listening to bloody Fun Boy 3 or whatever it was, what was I listening to? Tales from Topographic Oceans. That's what I was listening to. I'm proud of it. Sleaford Mods, they're all right. It's that bloke. There's a problem in rock music, is that rock music tries to sell angst. And kids should be full of angst. They should be. And in the old days, because it was more of a meritocracy, a band could form, a bunch of kids, and they could go and try and change the world, and the record companies would sign them up, and then other kids would listen to them. None of the parents cared. They didn't give a toss about Led Zeppelin or Pink Floyd. They didn't even know who they were. They didn't even know they existed. You know, all these incredible concerts that people went to see for like $50 in the States that had like 50,000 people in watching Led Zeppelin. All kids. The parents didn't even know it was going on. Right? They looked up to Robert Plant and Jimmy Page, who at the time were about 23 years old. You've got to understand what rock and roll is. But then it just went on and on and on. And even though all the evidence that it was dead 30 years ago with the last gasp of Nirvana, right? Once that happened and it all went away, this idea still carries on, and now there's these guys that can think that if they pull a band together and they push all the right buttons, that people will go, oh my God, this is angsty, edgy music, because the music critics are the same, and that's why Sleaford Mods are out there. You know, everyone I know who likes Sleaford Mods is around about 50 years old, and they got Doc Martens on. That's, you know, the same thing. Shaved head, Doc Martens on, and they have a big record collection. And they go out there buying stuff that I wouldn't buy in a million years. Joy Division, you know, it's that lot, isn't it? Right, let's go now to number 10, 9, 8, 7. Right. At number 7, I have Trust Fund Americana. New classification here. I've got 10 new classifications. Forget going on Spotify and going, oh, I'll put a bit of jazz fusion in, or maybe Latin jazz. You know the way they slice the music up? Spotify needs to take on my new system, right? And at number 7, we have Trust Fund Americana. So what's this? These are rich kids. I mean, talking properly rich. Here in the UK, they'll probably be related to the royal family, and they will have some sort of, royal blood in them, and they've probably been brought up in a home that is in the National Trust. You know those types of kids? And when they get up to a certain age, after going to private school and meeting all their private school mates and being educated in, you know, all the proper things that posh people should be educated, those who don't want to go into the cabinet will go, I don't really fancy going into the cabinet. I would rather be a rock and roll musician. Yeah, but the trouble is, Tarquin, you're not very good, are you? You only know about 3 chords. That's not a problem because we can play Americana. Americana? Surely can we do that when we're posh English people? Of course we can. Of course we can. Because if you think about it, in the UK, if you look at your music history, that's what rock and roll is. I've been watching that YouTuber Andy Edwards. I've been watching him. He says that. He says that rock music is a combination of the English aesthetic with American rhythm and blues. And the thing is those bands in the old days, these Led Zeppelins and stuff, it was a bit inauthentic, wasn't it? I mean, we could do it properly. We could go right back to the source and play Lead Belly songs. But how would they know it's so authentic? This is the other one talking now. How would they know it's authentic? Well, what we would do is rather than play electric guitars, maybe we could get a banjo or two, wear some braces, maybe a nice black waistcoat over a white shirt, that type of thing, and maybe wear a cloth cap. You know, we could go for a sort of cheeky cockney from the 19th century, mixed with a bit of Lead Belly Woody Guthrie. We can put it all together, and people will think it's very authentic. Well, surely they won't. When, you know, your dad is related to George III, you know, maybe that's not going to work, is it? Yes, but the thing is because we're so rich and powerful, I've got friends in the music press and they'll champion us all. Now, you know what band I've got here? Mumford & Sons. And the thing I like about Mumford & Sons is there was a bloke in that that's called Winston something. He's called Winston. What should we call the baby? How about Winston, after Winston Churchill? Well, it won't be the Winston from 1984, will it? Oh, no, I'm not interested in that left-wing tosh. You know, no, name me after Winston Churchill. I'm the second cousin of Winston Churchill. They name it after him. So Winston, was it Winston Marshall, is it? He was in Mumford & Sons, but he couldn't help but start, you know, praising all the right-wing talking points online. And it's like, oh, no, I've been cancelled. Everybody, I've been cancelled. I can't be in Mumford. They don't want to... I mean, they've all got the same opinions as me, but I just happen to say them publicly. And now I've been cancelled. What shall I do? I know what I'll do. I'll set up a YouTube and get 1 billion viewers, and I can just talk about right-wing stuff all day long, and I'll be championed by the right-wing. Yes. And any of you lot that keep saying that I'm saying right-wing talking points, you there, right? There I am, bashing the right wing, right? I might agree with some of their opinions. I might agree with some of the left-wing opinions. But the right wing, it's not the far right you need to worry about. It's the people who want to form Americana bands. That's what we got to look out for. Bloody hell, these people who stood there, you know, rock against racism and all that sort of stuff, shouting up their communist stuff, you know, they should be going for where the real evil lies. These English Americana trust fund bands. That's what I got at number 7. You enjoyed this so far? This is harsh, this one is, isn't it? Right, at number 6, I think, I've got postmodern misogynist rock. So, in the 80s, rock bands who had got in there for sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? That's what that, you know. If you're a young man, you're going to want to grow up and have sex, drugs, and rock and roll. If you were in the 70s, 80s, that's like a prerequisite. And as rock and roll emerged, this aspect of rock and roll got championed, you know. And so people like Lemmy, who had lived by sex, drugs, and rock and roll, he gets lauded, held up on high, as you know, it's like almost like Saint Lemmy, the patron saint of rock, you know. And I love Motown and I love Lemmy, an erudite man off his head, and so he's always funny. And the point is, won't go on about how great Lemmy is, but people look at Lemmy and they love it, don't they? And this carried on all the way through the 80s, probably best represented by Motley Crue. Motley Crue were adequate hair metal band in the 1980s. They were okay, weren't they? But they managed to turn themselves into millionaire by selling how decadent they were. Right? They're selling decadence, okay? Right, I'm just going to plug this in because I realise I haven't plugged my phone in. I hope this doesn't stop the thing. Oh, it's right over here. Sorry about this, everybody. Yeah, we're still going, aren't we? You know, so in the 80s, we had all this misogynist rock. And, you know, and I would like to do a video on just how misogynist rock can be, because there's so many famous rock songs out there that when you actually listen to what they're singing about is absolutely, truly awful. Anyway, then in the 1980s emerged another thing, right? This sort of identity politics, you know, cultural, you know, social justice things started to emerge, and feminism started to take hold, you know, the women. I mean, it started in the 1960s, but in the 1960s, all these misogynist rockers had gone, yes, ladies, you shouldn't have to live in this situation where you don't go off having sex like us. You should come and have sex with everybody like us. And they, well, yeah, we'll do that. And that's what they were like in the 60s. But by the 1980s, they started to realise it. So they started to cut their hair all short, and they used to start wearing dungarees, you know, and all that bit. So you've got that emerging in the 1980s. Remember that coming out. And what they do, they turn around, they start going, look at these misogynist rock bands. Aren't they awful? Look at this, you know, Motley Crue. Girls, girls, girls. I mean, what's that about? It's about girls. So this started to work against rock music. And rock music stopped doing that. And grunge could be seen as a sort of anti that sort of misogynist, decadent rock. But more recently, because of the influence of postmodernism and how postmodernism, bands can now look back on that period and they can do all that stuff in the name of irony. And the band that do it to the fore is bloody Steel Panther, right? I can't stick Steel Panther, right? I know I should like them, I should get the joke, but when I watch it, I just think it's stupid. Absolutely stupid. And rock music used to have a bloody edge. Metal, rock music, whatever you want to call it, it used to have an edge. It used to have some guts. You know AC/DC could be very misogynistic, but that was just a byproduct from the fact that they actually could rock. And they looked like a bunch of ugly blokes jumping around, you know, playing the tightest, greatest heavy metal of all time. Sorry about this. So, put me off now. Sorry, I'm going to have to... Sorry, I've got bloody calls coming through. I'm going to have to switch this off. It's not going to connect. I cannot do this at the moment. I will call you later, okay? Sorry about that. The world's trying to get into... I'm going to have to... I didn't even know my laptop would do that. I thought I got no... Anyway, I'm getting put off. Please stop it now. Please stop. Please stop. I cannot talk now. I cannot talk now. Can you please stop calling me? I'm trying to get these YouTube videos done. I can't talk. If you talk, you will be on the video. I can't edit them, so I'm having to do it all the way through. You're ruining it. I need to get these done, okay? See you in a bit. Oh, my God. Life. This is why I'm angry, really. Being at the beck and call of everybody in the whole bloody world. I'm in a bad mood now, but I can take this bad mood that I'm in, right, and I can channel it onto these bands. I've said enough about Steel Panther. I don't want to talk about them anymore. If you think Steel Panther's a proper rock band, mo fool you, as my mum used to say. They aren't. They're a travesty. It's a load of bloody nonsense, right? Just, I can't stick them, right? Now, the thing with Steel Panther is they might be utter shite, but they are a real band, right? I've seen them on stage playing, right? So let's have a look at the next. I'm getting so many calls coming through at the moment from everywhere. Right, and now you'll probably say you go into airplay mode. I have put this into airplay mode, but I'm reading my list off my laptop, and that's still coming through there. I forgot to switch it off, and I'm just being inundated. I'm gonna have a rest here as we come up to number 5, and just tell you something that if you're watching the channel, I get so many messages a day, mainly bands saying, "Will you check out my band?" but also people suggesting topics for me to do on YouTube. And I would love to spend my whole day going through all these messages, but there wouldn't be enough time in the day. So to be fair, I don't answer any of them. And so if you do send me something like that, it's highly likely I won't answer it. It's not because I'm being ignorant, but I have to try and answer my patrons' messages, and that can also take up a bit of time. When you're trying to do the videos like this, you know, this is a job. What I'm doing here is a job. I'm getting too serious now. And bizarrely, in my latter years, I earn my money not by saying lots of positive things about music, but the stuff that gets the views is stuff like this, where I can have a good old rant. And I've thought, you know, middle-class, middle-aged men who grew up listening to decent music, they don't have much in life. And if they can enjoy a good cathartic rant, there's nothing wrong with that. So should we carry on with the rants? Because I'm just taking up time. And I need to get to the next category, which is imaginary bands. And the band I've got is Maroon 5. What is Maroon 5? Tell me what Maroon 5 is. Maroon 5. What are they? I mean, there's obviously a singer there. Is he famous? I think he is, isn't he? Is that the bloke with the black hair? But is Maroon 5 a band? If they're a band, are they a band like the Thompson Twins? Is it all people in the background just doing it on keyboards? I don't think so. Is there any guitars on it? I don't think so. Maroon 5 is just a bloke with a bunch of samples and someone singing over it through autotune. Now, a band that we could see move towards this style of shite would be Coldplay. Now, when Coldplay's first album came out, right, that dreary one where he went, "Look at the stars, look at they shine for you, and everything they do, they're all yellow." You know, that drippy, awful, turgid song that broke in the old days, Coldplay. Well, that has become a cause célèbre of people of a certain age where they go, "I don't like modern Coldplay, but I really thought they were good in the early days when they were a proper band and they wrote songs." They were a proper band and they did write songs. They were good live. I remember when they first came on the scene, even before they had a deal, and I was going around gigging, and people used to say, "Oh, you got to come and see this band Coldplay." They earned their stripes by playing live. They were a good band, but what are they now? What are they now? Just some stadium rock band where everything's just pushed through a computer. Now, I'm sure with Coldplay, there's probably a dribble of real playing somewhere in the line, but this is sort of, you know, I mean, it's like, what, Imagine Dragons? Imagine Dragons, is that a band or am I just making that up? Every time I think of the word Imagine Dragons, I'm thinking, well, that title is actually pointing to the fact that people do imagine dragons, but I don't know if I'm imagining them, because I'm not too sure whether they exist. But I've said the words together, Imagine Dragons. Is that a band? What are all these bloody bands about? Right, and it's all to... I mean, sometimes you feel that there are some people that could be called a band. There's like 4 people that sort of collect together under the band name. They might not all do something. They definitely don't play any instruments. But they are about, you know, sat there for the photographs. But with Imagine Dragons or... You know, even bloody Sleaford Mods are a little bit like this. Imaginary bands. Imaginary bands. That's what I've got at number 5. Right, let's move on. Now, the title I've got with here, I think it's probably a little bit politically incorrect, and I don't want to cause any problems in this modern world by saying something that I didn't work out could be seen as being very dangerous to our culture, and will mean I will have to be stopped from saying it. So I won't say the title I've got here. It's a working title just to tell me what it is. Let's call it Sexualized Child Entertainers. Right, so say you're having a kids' party, right? And your kids say, "Can we have a clown at the party, Dad?" This happened to me once. "Can we have a clown at the party?" And I happen to know a clown. I knew a clown, professional clown. And so I said to this clown, "Could you come round and do the party?" He said, "Yeah." And he charged me a lot of money to come round. And he came round on his unicycle with his big red nose. And the thing I thought was very cool was because I was a teacher at the time. And this clown, if anybody gave him any lip, if any of these little kids who are about 6 years old gaming lived, he squirted them in the face with a water pistol, much to the delight of everybody else. And these kids were only 6, and it worked. They shut up straight away, and I thought, isn't this a wonderful method? So I went back to my college. I said, I've had this brilliant idea of how we can control the kids. I'm going to get a water pistol and just squirt them in the face with water. Oh, no, I don't think you can do that. Not be against health and safety, and it might be seen as basically bullying, And then if someone's had some sort of traumatic event where they've been, drowned, or even worse, been taken to Guantanamo Bay and they've done the waterboarding on them, you don't want to be doing that to, especially people who aren't, from that neck of the woods. You've got to watch this, Andy. So I said, can't I do it? No, but I had a kid bloke, the clown around my house doing it. It seemed to work. No, you can't do that. And I thought, respect to the clown, because by going under the clown guise, he was able to bloody abuse kids with the water pistol. Not terrible abuse, but just knock them in line a little bit, which I think young people need every now and then. Anyway, if that clown who'd come to entertain my children and then decided not to, I'm okay with him squirting in the face. So it's not like I'm being really prudish. Don't mind him squirting the kids in. My kids, go and have a go, give him a good squirt in the face. It's not going to work. It's only a bit of water pistol. We go out in the garden and squirt each other with water pistols. It's only a bit like that. I can live with the puddles on the ground. But if that clown decided, especially if he was a bit chubby, to strip off down to his pants, put tassels on his nipples, and dress as Satan, I might then draw the line at that point and go, hang on, what are you doing, mate? You can't be doing that in front of my kids. What's this about? What's this about? Oh, I'm just expressing my queerness, I think is what they call it. I got no problem with your queerness, mate. But I don't think you need to express it in front of my kids. Now, this raises an issue for popular music. Popular music is designed for kids, right? The metal and rock we've been talking, it's designed for teenagers of a certain angsty age. But there is a whole genre of pop music which is obviously aimed, because of the shallowness of it, and there are sort of repetitive nursery rhyme lyrics and boppy drum beats that exist behind it, that is obviously aimed at prepubescence. Am I allowed to say that? Prepubescence. I don't even think I can say. Anyway, so you know who the guy I've got here to represent it. It's Sam Smith. Now, I don't want to criticise Sam Smith, because I think Sam Smith is in that category where we've got to really step carefully. So he might be gay, he might be non-binary. I don't know what he is, and or they are. God, you've made the mistake all the way through. As soon as you started talking, I do apologise. I apologise unreservedly for calling Sam Smith not they. I will now, from now on, call him they. I really, really have disrespected his view of himself, which of course trumps everybody else's view of themselves. Oh no, I said the word Trump. I said the word Trump. I do apologise for saying the word Trump. I didn't mean to say the word Trump and say misgender people. Oh, I'm getting in a right mess here. I knew, and I said the word queer. And can I say the word queer? I mean, I don't think I'm queer. So am I allowed to say the word queer if I'm not queer? I don't want to say anything wrong. I want to make sure that I'm saying all the right things so I don't upset certain people. Because of course, if you do belong to an arbitrary identity group, then your self-hurt is obviously higher than my self-hurt. Why? Because I'm a middle-class, middle-aged white English man. If I get offended by something, it doesn't matter. And it's true. I get offended all day long by you lot. On YouTube, there's this bit you go in, it's all the comments, I've got it set. If a comment looks a little bit dodgy, you can go into this secret section. You don't see these comments. And you go into that section, they're a little bit dodgy. But at the bottom of that, it's got a warning and says, do not press on this unless you want to be grossly offended by idiots calling you all sorts of names. And you look at it, you go, shall I press it? Because I might get offended by it. I don't know. And when you press it, it opens up to a new section of your YouTube. It's like in the dungeon of YouTube, right down at the bottom where all the evil, horrible comments go. And you click on there, and some of them are so bad, they are brilliant. And I can't tell you what they say. I can't tell you what they call me. But I have found out that I am not only a fascist Nazi, but I'm also a soy communist. Not just a normal communist, but a soy communist. And some bloke calls me that on a regular basis. If he hasn't called for it, I start to feel a little bit like, oh, why hasn't he called me a soy communist this month? What have I done wrong? You know, I'm sure here, by apologising to, you know, certain groups of people out there, you know, by misgendering them, I'm sure he's going to really have a go at me, because he's obviously some far-right nutter in the States, I imagine. There's a whole host of them out there. They can say what they want, but I can't. So, that was the one I got at, which one was it? Was that number 4, was it? Yeah, that was number 4. So I've got dodgy children's entertainers. And they're welcome to do whatever they want, but they've captured an audience with their cruddy kiddie pop, right? And once they've got them there and they're all in with their parents, they're going, we go and see Sam Smith, please. And then he comes out licking his nipples and tossing his devil tail around and looking all a bit dodgy now. I don't know whether that harms kids or not. It probably doesn't. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen in the world. I just don't know. But the whole point of this video, it is the decline and fall of Western civilization. And, you know, I can't see how this could do any good. Shall we move on? Right. We're up to the last 3 now. The heavyweight, real terrible stuff. So what number 3 category is called ugly songwriters with a beard and a face tattoo, right? This is quite surprising in this sort of poppy, you know, throwaway music world that we now live in, which is all about prettiness and looking attractive and all that type of stuff. That has emerged the antithesis of this. It's a bloke with a guitar, right? Ugly, right? And they usually have face tattoos. I've just said all this. It's a bloke with a beard and a face tattoo. Ugly bloke. You know, probably a bit overweight. Good voice. You know, the sort of voice that you go, I wouldn't expect that voice to come out of that bloke. Right? Now, the person I'm going to put forward is Rag and Bone Man. But I actually think this phenomenon has its roots with Ed Sheeran. Now, Ed Sheeran couldn't be... It wasn't his fault he was an ugly ginger bloke. And I don't think that was... I don't think the record companies, when they saw Ed Sheeran, went, oh, my God, look at this ugly ginger bloke here. He's bloody brilliant. Oh, there's a gap in the market for ugly ginger blokes. You know, now that Mick Hucknall's not doing so much, we can get him in there. Nobody said that about Ed Sheeran. Nobody. He just happened. It's a byproduct. Right, he was just writing these sort of catchy, nondescript pop songs, but what he was doing, it was on acoustic guitar, and so people would go, "Oh, this is proper music now. He's a proper songwriter, that bloke, because he does it on acoustic guitar. He's got the guitar around the neck, and he's strumming it while he sings, and he writes his own songs. Oh, bloody hell, he's brilliant songwriters, and he can write a good hook, can't he, Ed Sheeran?" And then they went, "Hey, but I can't believe how much success he's having, because he's not the most handsome man in the world." I'll explain to you what I mean. There's a film called Yesterday. I mentioned it the other day, and now, it wasn't yesterday I mentioned it. It would be very apt if I had, but it wasn't. It was about 4 days ago. I mentioned Yesterday, and it's a film where it imagines what it would be like if the world had no Beatles, except for this one guy. He remembers all the Beatles songs, but nobody else does. So he starts singing these Beatles songs. And because the songs are so brilliant, he becomes a massive pop star. Now, he becomes so great that Ed Sheeran comes over to see him, and Ed Sheeran challenges him to a pop song writing competition. I know this doesn't sound like this could be an actual film, but it does happen. Now, there's one point where he goes out into his kitchen, and he's not quite famous, and he opens his back door, and just stood there is Ed Sheeran. Now, the effect that that's supposed to have, if it was David Bowie, right, or Brian Ferry, or even Meatloaf, you would go, oh, I don't know about Meatloaf. I mean, Meatloaf might have started this, now I've said it. Anyway, forget Meatloaf. If it was David Bowie or Mick Jagger or something like Prince like that, the effect you're supposed to have is you open the door and go, oh, my God, it's Mick Jagger. What's Mick Jagger doing to my back door? I can't believe it's Mick Jagger at the back door. That was the effect it was supposed to have. That was the effect, right? But I was sat there with my kids, and when they opened the door,
Hi.
it was just Ed Sheeran sat there, and my kids just burst out laughing and could not stop laughing because of what he looked like. Now, I think the record companies or the music business, or what it went called, they went, we might have another phenomenon here that we weren't ready for, right? Ugly blokes. We've never done ugly blokes before. Well, let's get some proper, really ugly blokes. Make sure they can sing a bit, because I think what's happening is, because they're ugly, people think that it's proper. Right? Because if you're good looking, you can't possibly be talented at the same time, can you? That's just ridiculous. Or you wouldn't put them two things together. I mean, if you're good looking, why do you need to be talented? You can just be good looking all the time. But Ed Sheeran, he's had to make his way in life, despite the fact being ginger and ugly. Go and find somebody, and you get these people, Post Malone in the States, they're all the bloody same, right? So that's what I've got at number 3. But at number 2 and number 1, you've probably thought, Andy's done nothing on rap. He's done nothing on hip-hop. He hasn't mentioned it so far. Number 2 and number 1 are reserved for 2 categories of hip-hop. Now, I do like rap music. I grew up listening to rap music. I've always been a big fan. Before we get into this, I'm going to give you my theory on what I think happened to rap music. And I think, again, it's identity politics rearing its ugly head, right? I think rap is an incredible response to rock music in the 1970s, where people in the black community, the deprived black community, who couldn't have guitars and basses and drums, they would look at Kool and the Gang and they were Ohio players, and they think, how did they get all those instruments? Look at that. But the thing is, if you were in a black band in the 1970s, you had to have about 10 people in. You see, that's what they had to do, because they had to ask round. People didn't own the instruments. All right, and it's a racist time. These people lived in the ghetto, didn't they? Right? So they're living in the ghetto. And DJ Kool Herc, who's a bloody genius, went, if I get this bit out of the middle of this James Brown record and I put it on a turntable, I can play it. And then when it goes back into the singing, I can play it on another, I can mix it across. It's an incredibly skillful thing. But I'm a member of the black community, and all we've ever done with music is invent new stuff and come out with brilliant stuff like this. So I'll just invent this new way of doing music, which he did. And then the guy that was there, that was emceeing the party, goes, well, if you're going to do that, I got a couple of Last Poets albums at home. I'm just going to do that over the top. And thus this incredible new art form was born, which was born in the party situation. 2 turntables and a microphone and a PA, and you can go out and entertain the audience, and you can improvise just like jazz musicians. You can respond, and if you're rapping, you can discuss things and you can comment on what is going on around you. And suddenly rap musicians started to do this, and it was incredible. But of course, with all great music forms, it starts as novelty. So these tracks in the early 80s were novelty songs. They were, some of them were incredibly heavy, but they were still treated as a novelty song. Nobody thought this was a competition with people with guitars. And then you go into, with the rise of Run DMC and then L Cool J, you go into this sort of renaissance. And the next thing you got Public Enemy, who's like, whether you agree with them or not, the intention and philosophy and depth of Public Enemy just hits you in the face. I've got them on in the car right now. I love Public Enemy. And you have NWA, and they open up a window into what it's like to exist in those places. But they start to make a lot of money, don't they? And the record company comes in and says, this is brilliant. We can sell this all around the world. And then, rather than having any depth to it, it just becomes people toting the front end of what they were putting out there, right? And because of identity politics, and where feminists were going to criticise rock bands for being misogynistic, nobody criticised the rappers. There was some pushback. I can remember 2 Live Crew coming out, and I can remember there being some pushback of that. But again, it was always treated like a novelty. I've gone serious now. I think this is an actual issue with hip-hop, is there's been too long where nobody wanted to offer any serious criticism for being seen as being anti the message of hip-hop. Right? I'm trying to say it with that. There's so many minds in this bloody video in there. Anyway, so I think hip hop has been beyond criticism. And what's happened is it's just degenerated down to into the lowest common denominator. And at number 2, I have a category called the rap slut. I'm sure I'm going to get in trouble for this, aren't I? So these are girl rappers that will stand up virtually naked and they will rap about highly sexualized things whilst jiggling and wiggling. There's a lot of bottom wiggling in this bit, but it's, I mean, bottom wiggling is one thing, but this is taken to a max, but it's the actual subject matter of these. Now, I could have picked Nicki Minaj, I could have picked a whole bunch of them, but I've gone for Cardi B at number 2. And I don't think this is a healthy, I mean, I'm a free speech advocate. I think that in a Western democracy, you need to be liberal and tolerant. I think people should be able to do what they do. I think artists should be able to say what they say, and I don't have a problem with it, except I don't think these sort of rights to cease free speech and free expression and all that type of stuff are applicable to children. And the reason is because I think you earn rights through responsibilities. And when you're a responsible adult, you should be able to watch or listen to whatever you like. No one should be saying you can't listen to that far-right person because you might become a Nazi if you listen to them. People should be treated as adults, but kids aren't like that. And the problem I have here with a lot of this is that this sort of rose-tinted view of rock music and pop music, where we see it as being of great cultural importance, because it once was, making great statements about society, because it once was, it hasn't done that for over 30 years. It has just regressed back to how much is that doggy in the window now. It is just basically nursery rhymes for the great public to go and tap their foot to in the background and dance to on TikTok. There is no depth to it whatsoever. But what we found is if somebody like Cardi B combines that with this hyper-sexualized sort of video, then the videos will go into the billions, thus earning millions on Spotify, on YouTube. This is the ultimate thing. Now, I did make a video once where I became hypersexualized, and I didn't come out talking about this stuff. There I was, G-string on, wiggling my bottoms, singing all about the things that make me happy, you know, in the bedroom, which is not much really. It was a very short video. And I thought, shall I put this out? I thought, no, I won't put it out because I've got principles. I know if I put that out, the world's going to say, you see Andy Edwards, he's just hit gold now. He's hit gold, 1 million views, there I would be, bottom wiggling. But no, I thought, no, I won't do it. I've got morals. I'm not going to do it. My bottom is for my wife to see and nobody else's. I'm not going to be parading my bottom around. If you see now, I've steered this back to the comedy again because I'm going quite serious with this. But at number 1, I have, at number 1, evil rappers. Rappers who have sold their soul to Satan. Rappers that have done untold horrors. Right? Now, I was watching Dave Chappelle, who I'm a big fan of, last night, and he was talking about a rapper called DaBaby. Now, DaBaby got in trouble because I think he said something homophobic, and the joke was that before that he'd shot someone. And he said that when he shot someone, that was okay. But as soon as he said something homophobic, he got in trouble for it. Yes, hip-hop has churned up more murderers, criminals, organised crime types. You know, this is what we have. Now, the personification of the evil rapper, of course, and it's very apt at the moment, is P. Diddy. P. Diddy has been found out, and we're supposed to be so surprised that some no-talent nobody who can't rap and can't do anything at all, that then becomes a billionaire, one of the most powerful people in the music industry, is doing untold horrors, right? This has always been there. Untold horrors in the music industry started in the 1970s. There's nothing that's being reported now that various rock bands didn't do in the 1970s and various people didn't do in the 1980s and did in the 1990s. And if you're in Motley Crue, a few years back, you could tie that all up, miss a few of the dodgy things out that you don't want to discuss, put it out in a book, and before you know it, you're multimillionaires and they're making a film of it. Now, it's not the case. because what's happening is our culture is changing, and the values that were inherent in rock music, which were very important, the countercultural, contrarian values that existed, that were pushing at the edges of society, did wonderful things, but they have atrophied. I have said this over and over again. At the end of this video, we get to an incredibly serious point, which I have been lampooning for the whole of this video. And it is the point that these ideas that came out of postmodernism, these ideas that everybody is a rainbow, that everyone should express themselves fully, and whatever they do, it's of worth. And if we examine it, we will hear new voices. And even though they might be drug addicts, or they might be, have different sexual persuasions to all the people, they have got something interesting to offer. And it was the case. And the world got better for opening its ear to different people. But then that idea of doing that atrophied, and now it has become a dogma. And now we don't see the depth that stuff unearths. We just respond to seeing what looks like it's contrarian. And so when you listen to modern music, we will allow children to watch Sam Smith, parading around next to nothing with the devil, or watch Cardi B, or, have someone in so much control like Puff Daddy that he is doing all sorts of things. And now we have discovered that politics has got its Epstein, that the film industry had its Harvey Weinstein, and now we realise the music industry had its Puff Daddy, P. Diddler. Right, and this is the decline and fallen west of civilization. And even though this seems like it's a bit of a joke, it is the decline and fall of Western civilization as we've known it. The postmodernist era is coming to a close. If we really want to save what we think is valuable in the West, this is the serious message of this video, we have to have a readjustment and decide what is valuable in Western liberal democracy. And it's those two things. It's liberalism, which is where you tolerate people doing whatever they want, as long as it doesn't upset anybody else. And if it upsets someone else, it becomes a private thing that you do yourself. Don't judge people for that, but you don't put it out there if it's affecting someone else. That's basically tolerance. And democracy is obviously that we hold our politicians to account, and they do what is best for the people. They represent us, not the other way around. And if we could, it's written into the American Constitution, all this is. If we go to that and hold on to that, we might be able to save this. But honestly, if we don't, then the autocracies that are out there will take us over. And they are probably looking at all these artists at a distance and laughing up their sleeve at how stupid and lax and lazy we have become in the West. Oh, that was an hour-long rant. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did like this video, then you can put a like on it by putting a like on it. If you want to see some more, then please subscribe. And you can subscribe as well. Please do that, because it will help my channel immensely. You can become a Patreon. The link is down below. You can become a free member or a paid member. And if you would like to put a donation into my PayPal tip jar, some YouTubers said you can buy me a drink, but I'm teetotal, you see, because although I come on here ranting, I am actually a very clean living man. Unlike the people that we've been looking at on this list today, the dirty, rotten lot. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.